Is it possible that some dumb guy like me who just wants to play basketball and teach basic biology could have come up with an experiment that would be proposable by either side? Because it's just a good experiment. And if you really wanted to shut Robert F. Kennedy Jr. up, Paul Offit, you could propose this experiment. And if you wanted to shut Paul Offit up, Mary Holland and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and their wonderful CHD could propose this experiment and shut Paul Offit up. And doctors on either side would go, wow, that's a great idea. I'll participate. Can you imagine that there's an experiment that would work like that and would work like that and should work like that and will work like that if any of these people, either side, decided to take the language and use it? Can you imagine that? It's very similar to the cleverness of intramuscular injection is dumb. And if anybody wanted to beat Paul Offit for real, that's where they'd start. RNA cannot pandemic. If you want to beat Vincent Racaniello in an argument, that's where you start. That's why nobody starts there. If you wanted to end this argument about the pandemic, you'd always go back to the ridiculousness of PCR as a diagnostic, but none of them ever do. And for 15 years, none of them have been able to escape the hamster wheel, which is vaccine testing against a placebo would be unethical. Vaccines have never been long-term placebo-controlled, double-blind tested. And neither have the adjuvants. And running in this wheel we have been because of Mary Holland and Brian Hooker and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Paul Offit and NIH and NIAID and Andrew Wakefield and Peter Daszak and all of these people. They're all the same dumb trap because they could not get out of this. They can't propose an experiment that either Paul Offit or Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can use. That is your homework. That should have been your homework for the last 20 years, Polly Tommy. The last 15 years, Mary Holland. The last 20 years, Anthrax Meryl Nass. Any of you people could have come up with this experiment. It's so easy. My 12-year-old kid understood it in one pass.
There was a former HHS secretary who said, I can't believe the power I have with the stroke of a pen.
So he could demand another clinical trial of MMR?
Although he couldn't ever demand the kind of trial he's always asking for, which is a placebo-controlled trial.
He can never demand a placebo-controlled trial. He can never do it. Hear it. He can never do it.
For vaccines that you already know work. You can't do that. It's not ethical to do that. You can't give children no vaccine. If you do that, then you're right where you were with Samoa when you had 83 children die, or where you are now, where you've had 3 people die. 2 of them were healthy young children because their parents chose not to vaccinate them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end it right here. You don't need a long-term placebo-controlled trial to test whether intramuscular injection of a combination of substances with the intent of augmenting the immune system is dangerous. You don't need that. You can give everybody their vaccine, and you can give everybody a placebo. You can just separate the vaccine and the placebo by about 3 or 4 weeks. Everybody gets 2 shots. You just don't know which one was which. And you unblind it after both shots have been given. Now, Paul Offit gets everybody their vaccine within a month, and they get their placebo-controlled trial, and anybody that shows any symptoms at all in the first 4 weeks after intramuscular injection will inevitably be in the live injection group. Game over. The only way that trial could fail is if they gave placebos to the people that were supposed to get a combination of substances with the intent of augmenting their immune system. And any doctor that believed in vaccines could easily see that will solve the problem. That will answer the question. And whether you believe in vaccines or you don't believe in vaccines, that's a pretty easy way to figure it out. And it's especially enticing to the people who believe. It's an especially awesome way for somebody like Paul Offit or anybody else who wanted to be super smart to dunk on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to dunk on all these people. Because remember, Mary Holland's kid regressed rapidly. Remember that Polly Tommy's kid regressed rapidly, that many of the parents in the movie Vaxxed testify to their kid regressing very quickly after their shots. You don't need a long-term controlled trial. You don't need a long-term controlled trial.